What is going on, guys? Happy Wednesday. Welcome to the Wednesday night live stream. Oh, how are you doing, buddy? Oh, you're muted.
Oh, I'm good. How are you?
Wonderful, thank you. Good to see you.
Always a pleasure. Always a pleasure to see you. How are you?
It's been a crazy week, but it's better now because we're live streaming.
Crazy
Uh,
week. What happened?
I guess the whole last week is trimming trees and overflowing water bins, and my powers went out twice in the last week. And it has went on ages. It's
Wait,
been a
wait,
crazy week.
wait. I think I remember the trimming trees thing because we're in a group chat. But
Yep.
the water, like, come on, like, give me more context for that.
I thought I turned off the outlet to the booster pump, but apparently I didn't. And I had a buddy coming over helping me trim a bunch of trees in the yard, and yeah, it overflowed. That was last Wednesday. I'm just
We,
office floor is all wet. I'm like, no live stream today. But yeah, back to normal. No wet floors. Life's doing good again. So serendipitously, I bought that battery backup from Costco like 2 weeks ago because I was in there and I kind of wanted one for a while. And I was looking at it and was reading it. Most of them are lithium ion, which is like nice and light and portable, but they don't last as long. So I've been secretly on this side quest of getting a lithium iron phosphate one because those last 3,000 plus charge cycles. That baby's good for 10 plus years. So I was at Costco and they had one, and I was reading all the details and I was like, oh, this is a lithium iron phosphate. So then I bought it, and I've used it twice now in the last week and a half since I bought it. It's actually power outages, running pumps and stuff. So it's actually proved to be a very good investment.
I am really, really excited about the Kraken for the Coral View Hydros for that exact reason. So
Yep.
one, I have a crazy amount of power breaks. And two, it's supposed to, while I have MP60s and MP40s, and the
Hmm.
MP60s I think are 36 volts. Like if I say anything wrong about these power things, please correct me because I don't know. But
Okay.
apparently you can't put 36 volt devices on it. So the
Mm.
MP40s are 24 volts. So I'll be able to do that. So while I'll get rid of some power bricks,
Yep.
at least I'll have some flow in my tanks.
I don't know
Um,
if this is practical for a full-time solution, but I know they do have that battery booster you can use for the bigger vector pumps to boost it to 24 or 36, whatever it is. That may or may not work. So you might be able to run off that. It's food for thought.
well, I was also thinking about getting a couple of battery backups, but
Yep.
if I get I think one of this Coral View solution, along
Mhm.
with getting a decent sized lead acid battery, I
Yep.
think will do what I need because space is always an issue. So I
Yep.
think that should work for what I need to. I think, listen, the Vortec battery backup, I think is a good solution for the average person. And
Mhm.
I think that's what I'll do in my kids' room. But for my living room, I don't want to have to, space is already a priority. I don't want to have to
That's
do
fair.
three or four of those.
That's fair. Just this beast because it's made me so happy lately. If it shows up and doesn't disappear, yeah, it disappears. But anyways, that guy. The cool thing is you can use it as a UPS mode, so you can run off it as it's charging. So you can basically leave it in like a big UPS, which is cool. That's another selling feature.
Do you lose power a lot? Because here in New York
No.
City, I think since I've lived here, I remember two power outages. One was the big power outage in New York City when I was long time ago, 20 years ago, and the other one was a really localized power outage that was just in a neighborhood for a couple of hours.
Yeah.
So, okay, all right.
Mine was localized. Usually we don't. We actually have pretty good power here. So the first time I have no idea why. The second time it was a crazy windstorm, and I think a tree fell into a power line and took out my area, of course. So usually no, but recently apparently we do.
All
So that
right.
happens. Do. Were you hit by the crazy same storm Canada that the Rockies are down in New York? If it was a crazy wind one, possibly. It was
You're
super duper windy. It's pretty far away, but you never know.
Yeah, you're on the west. I don't think people realize you're on the west coast of Canada,
I am.
and we're on the east coast of the U.S.
Builds up a lot of
I think
momentum as it goes
that's
across
a
the country.
lot of wind. What about the wildfires? Have you any wildfires where you are?
There was some. They've been put out. Who
Okay,
knows? The close ones. I mean, there was some far away in the next province over.
okay.
Yeah.
Because I've never even heard of an air quality report ever until
Really?
like a couple months ago, and now we need to check it all the time. But
Crazy. Now, this is something that I'm curious about with like, wildfires and smoke. How much of an impact does it have on our tank, right? Is it, is there extra CO2 that's killing pH? Is there any contaminants that are messing with our tanks? Like that's one thing I'm kind of curious about. I don't know if I'll get a direct answer on it, but it always makes me wonder a little bit.
I was watching Reef Bum stream, and he had Craig Bingman on,
Mm-hmm.
and I think Bingman's response is not enough to worry about it.
Yeah, that's promising. Excellent. So, how's your tank been doing?
Tank is doing well. Oh, always weird to do that because it's opposite. Cyano is the one issue, and I got some really cheap cyano killer, whatever that thing is, for Prime Day.
Yep.
It was really cheap on Amazon, so
Nice.
I expect that to come. And then, just give me a second. I have some show and tell.
Excellent.
So, I don't know if you saw my weird Instagram flex. I am going to be installing a new return pump. But the crazy
What is it?
thing, it's an Abyss A200.
Ooh, that's a fancy one.
But my return lines now are 3/4 inch. I have to do huge upgrades, and we all know when you need to upgrade how expensive 1.5 plumbings and unions and stuff is. So
Yes. So you're going from 3/4 to 1.5 inch. So you're basically doubling it. How much
So
flow are you pumping through that baby?
I have 2 returns that are 3/4 inch each. So I'm basically gonna go from 1.5 inch and split.
Okay.
It's gonna do something. It's gonna feed a refugium, but it's basically gonna go from 1.5 inch to 2 3/4.
Nice. That's awesome. Let me know how you like the Biz later. It's always been too fancy for me, but they've always piqued my interest. So
I'll let you know. I'll let you know. It's supposed to be 10-year warranty. That thing feels solid.
Yeah.
And my kids are, I think, fighting in the background, but that's okay as long as everyone's alive.
yeah, that happens. Just don't lose the children. So tanks overall been good. You're doing a big pump upgrade, which is a pretty sweet one. That's going to be a ton of flow. Mine has not. My office tank has been doing the best. I had a very high salinity for a bit, and it's been neglected. So I'm trying to get myself back on track with it on both my tanks, rather. But
We expect that with the baby. So, as long
I know.
as there's some slippage until you get into a new routine. I think it's the same thing with Brandy. Like, I feel a little left out. So we have a group chat with the 3 of us. And it starts with reefing, and then it really devolves. I'm not going to say devolve. I take that back. I eat those
Evolves.
words. But it really evolves into baby talk. And because they both have infants, it's hilarious. I do not envy you guys.
you've been there, done that.
Yeah,
You're set.
Done.
So it's been interesting. I still have to put on all, like the magnetic locks and all the stands and all that type of stuff. That's still on my to-do list, but it's coming.
Oh, it's going to come.
Yeah. Woody's asking, "Where's the red dragon?" Did you
Oh,
go?
I
Did
still
you get a red
got it.
dragon?
Yeah, but I never actually put it. I never actually put it on, so I do have it. It's just I have a red. I'm a little skeptical about the U.S. support for a Red Dragon, and that is one of the things that I'm so hesitant. I needed some changes to it. I needed a new controller. I needed the U.S. controller, and it just took me. It was just such an uneasy process to me that I have vectors now, and I know something happens, call Ecotech. I can get something really quickly. I'm not out of commission for any length of time, any significant length of time. When it takes you like 2 weeks to get a solid answer, I feel very uncomfortable about that process. I think in 2 weeks, even if other like if I'm using Tunzi, Siche, yeah. But I mentioned Siche because so with any other company, I expect. So a couple weeks ago was Reefapalooza. I broke my impeller on my Ultra Zero, and my gosh, Devin, like it's the first
Really?
time I've ever used Siche support.
How was it?
I think Ecotech, Tunzi, and Siche are now like, for me, I have like an internal ranking of who gives the best support. Like I think Ecotech AI is up there, but I think Tunzi and Siche are like right. I think I need to get multiple interactions with Siche. I think Roger at Tunzi because you call the phone, Roger picks up is a close second because there's a personal relationship there.
Yeah.
But I think Siche, man, even through the online portal was so easy. I mean,
Yeah. Huh. I've never actually used their support, so it's good to know.
that's good though. That means the products are solid.
This
But
is true.
the fact that I used it and I opened the ticket on I think Tuesday, and I think by Friday I had the thing shipped and in my inbox. Granted, they're in Florida, in New York, so once it's in the mail, but
Still pretty good.
I know, I know, I
Impressive.
know.
I like
So just to put a pin in this, I think when I'm considering equipment, just because and I think it might become more important to you as your family grows. I think
Yeah.
support, because you're not going to have the time to do all that DIY stuff anymore. I think you want stuff. You still got your reef dudes. You're the tech
I still
guy,
dabble.
so
I still
yeah,
dabble.
you
That's
still
kind of fun.
dabble, but I don't think you want to dabble on your tanks for certain things. You're going to have less time to do that. Less time to open a pump and rewire something.
Yeah, fair
So I
points.
think you want support. I think you want to call somebody and say, "Hey, this broke. Can you help me?"
That's solid logic, and I definitely agree on that. There's something nice to be said about it, especially when it's quick, right? When you're in like panic mode, you're like, something's broken, something's not working, right? You don't want to be waiting a week or two.
So let me just address something Woody is saying, all the effort he took to send it to me. And I know he's saying it in jest, but I think, I've realized that support can be different for products depending on where you are. So, I mean, personally, I don't know Ecotech in the UK, but I think in the UK or in in the EU, support for Royal Exclusive or Red Dragon products are a little bit different than we get here in the US. That's what I think. And maybe it's because you're native, but I still have my Red Dragon pump. Still looking at it, still a very fancy pump.
Okay, just a side note on this one. You said you had to change the controller. Can't you just change the power supply for it? Just match whatever the output voltage is instead of whatever the input voltage. It's not 220, obviously, but can't you just get something that's 34 or 36 volts or whatever the output is?
I think you've gotten to the root of one of my issues where I think I got an answer, but it took so long to get an answer that I don't know if I trust the answer. So even though I physically bought what I think I needed,
Yeah.
I don't know if I trust. So yes, listen, I've been talking to you about this for 5 minutes, and I think you've given me more help than I think I've gotten from the guy in the last, took me months of trying to track him down. So
happy to help. You're on the Q&A live stream. What else you got?
That sounds logical. So you're saying is so I think with Red Dragon, the power supply and the controller are the same thing.
Send me a photo later. I bet you we can solve this pretty quick.
All right, cool. I will.
All right. Okay. All right. Side note, if anyone in the chat has any reefing questions you want us to dig into and find you answers to, let me know. One's actually on Facebook. Someone's asking me about help just before the stream, but they're asking if you can turn off a Versa pump when your pH is above a certain level. And he had to put him to his apex. That's very, very easy to do. Just that outlet, you're like, if pH is above, for him, you wanted 8.29, then off. So you just set your outlet on. You can say when it's over that, then turn off. Now, the other thing I'd normally do is do a defer statement so it doesn't, flip on and off constantly. So like defer, 10 minutes, then on. That way, if it's, right at that line going up and down, it's going to have to be off for at least 10 minutes before it comes back on, just so you're not cycling your outlet a bazillion times.
I'm smiling because why did it take me so long to figure that out? I think I put that code in last week, where I have my Versas now refilling my ATO. Like my ATO pump never comes on. It's just, I think I have it come on for an hour every day, just to, nice. If there's any imbalance, it can rebalance. But it's the Versa running that's on. And I realized it was clicking on and off. And I literally put that in and says, hey, if it's off, it has to stay off for at least a half an hour. And when it's on, it has to stay on for at least a half an hour. So I think that gives me some leeway to also, I have a huge power head in my sump recirculating. So, the water level is bouncing a little bit. So I don't know why it took me so long to sort of figure that out.
Yeah.
But
It's a good one for if you're doing optical sensor or something for ATO. Definitely a good one, especially if you're using like the ADK. The other one that I set that up with was with the UV because I have it turned off if my tank's too warm. And if it's right at that line, you don't really want to be on, off, on, off, on, off on the bulb, right? So that's another good one to use that defer on. Yeah. Skimmer's another one I always do too, just to give it time to like balance out the water level sump after a feed mode. Yeah, so defers are useful.
Yeah, I use that for the skimmer. I didn't think the minimum on and minimum off was. I don't think that's something I've ever used for this purpose. I've seen it used, just never used it.
Another useful one too, if you're doing like an ATO or something like that, just to prevent it from ever running for ages. You can say, went on for 40 minutes then off or something. Like just put some kind of a buffer thing to shut it off if it's been on for too long.
Yeah.
Pro tips: keep the tank safe.
I know.
Yeah. What are you saying? The Red Dragon support is pretty easy for them. So yeah, it really depends where you are, right? If they're in your own country, it's obviously going to be a lot quicker and smoother than across ponds or imaginary lines.
I think, yeah, I agree. I think so. I think I noticed that.
Totally. Any other cool projects with you lately?
No, I think I have now blades as supplemental light.
Nice.
I got this cool bracket from Adaptive Reef. So now I have radions, and now I have them back to front orientation, and then I have the AI blades as the fill light. I'm using the glows.
How you
so
liking
I have them running really purple. I like it. I gotta be honest. I think I burned some stuff when I first put it on.
How high? What percentage are you running it at?
100%.
Oh yeah.
I turned the blue down to because the AI products you can rebalance the light. So I turned the blues down and then turn the UV and the violet up. Give me 1 second, Dave. Let me just.
Yeah, there is definitely, they put a lot of juice. Like whenever I did my original video on the AIs put on my tank, I was actually fairly surprised of how much power it had out for a single fixture. So if they were 100%, that would definitely be doing a lot, especially if your tank's not super super big. I know at least on my tank, I have to check what I'm running at though, but they're a pretty low percentage. I think it's only like 20 or 30% maybe. But again, my tank's pretty shallow, so it's not a thought. Homegrown frags, what's going on, buddy? So yeah, that's a lot of juice you're putting on if you just added them as supplemental.
Yeah, I didn't think about that, and I think I may have pissed some stuff off, but it's okay. They're recovering now.
That's fair. I'm actually just gonna look what mine are because I know they're way lower.
I cannot see the chat. Is it just me?
Possibly.
Yeah. All right. Let me restart my browser. I'm gonna have to look at myself on YouTube for a second.
Dun.
Always.
Just mute it so I don't have two of you. Homegrown frags went under a rock. You have been under a rock, man. I haven't seen you in here in a while. Welcome to the stream.
So I heard you made a secret last minute trip to Rap Orlando.
I did.
Yeah.
Yeah, where were you?
I didn't make it. But I remember talking about it. You said something might be in the works, but then I saw videos. I was like, wait a second, David was there.
Yeah, it was a bit last minute. I think I booked it like a week before. But yeah, it was fun. It was a good trip. Sometimes you just find the right flight and things align and you just make it happen.
Is there going to be a California?
When is it?
Oh, the 5th and the 6th of August.
Never know. That's another month away. Yeah, we'll see.
3 weeks-ish.
Yeah, we shall see. I've been on the reefing but not reefing note. I've been down the whole rabbit hole lately, debating if I upgrade my camera for shooting videos to try and improve the quality a bit. So I've been obsessed with that the last little while, trying to decide.
You have a A6000 and you have a 6500.
Yeah, I have a 6500.
And what are you going to do, like a 7000?
They just released the 6700, which is the new APS-C sensor, and they also have the ZVE one, which is a full frame one. And I'm like debating if it's worth it or not. So we'll see. But I do like to constantly like to slowly increase the quality, right? So like,
I have a 6000. The thing that annoys me is there's no external microphone port.
oh,
So yeah, so you have to use their onboard Bluetooth thingy.
yeah,
I think Greg just got one, and there's a new. So the onboard Bluetooth thingy that I have is not really good, but I think there's a new one.
yeah. Yeah, so I don't know. You can always like sync your audio, but it's more effort afterwards. So we'll see. But it's like a constant mission. You know, every like year or so, I'm like, okay, how can I make this a bit better? And it's just want to constantly up the quality and stuff. And then I'm starting to have a bit of a life again, and gotta get back to things. So it's good.
Do you shoot? Well, okay, now you have a baby to take pictures of, so you want the highest quality. So you don't have to justify it to us there. We got it. We got it.
Justifying it to myself to see if it's worth it. We'll see.
We got it. We got it.
We'll see. We'll see. So you have the tank behind you. You also used to have like a little lagoon tank in your kids' room, didn't you? Like a circular one. Is that still alive, or is that gone?
That is.
Uh-oh.
Well, it's still there.
Is there water in it?
Yes.
Okay.
It's actually. I have mistreated that tank. That tank has been so good to me, and yet I've mistreated it. So it has really nice mushrooms in it. It has a lot of sun-kissed. It has an OG bounce that someone gave me. It has some really nice mushrooms in it. I use it as, so when I get new fish, I put them in that first.
Yeah.
And then move them here. I also, in a full, I don't know what got into me, but you know, it's a Lagoon 25 with the back. So I went in one day with razor blades and like as a madman, like actually cut the baffles out.
Yeah.
So it's one big chamber now, which I like because you get more space.
Yep.
But I think I don't remember what were my ultimate plans, but I think now I'm going to use a canister filter to filter detritus. But I just like more open space. I'm going to put gravel in it. I'm going to make it like a mushroom tank.
Nice.
Do nice mushrooms.
So you basically turned your saltwater tank into a freshwater tank.
No, it's still saltwater.
No, I know, but like aesthetically, because generally speaking, freshwater tanks are just the glass box, right?
Yes.
Do you know what's funny? Before I even got into saltwater, I used to use saltwater tanks as freshwater tanks at a certain point because I liked that I could hide all the gear in the back chamber.
So I had this plan where I'm going to use the internal, like Tunzi has a power filter, and I was going to use that, and then I was going to use like a Tunzi 9004 skimmer, and I think those things just take up as much space as the back filtration did originally. So I got really annoyed with the. So for me, the way I'm going to do it is I'm going to do canister, and I'm going to do an inline heater. So that's the way I'm going to try to hide some of the gear.
Is it 25 gallon or what is it?
It's a 25 Lagoon.
Honestly, on that size of a tank, like if you're going to do water changes anyways, I would just not even run a skimmer. I would just do water changes. Like an ATO and a heater and a power head is probably all you honestly need.
So I think because it's in the bedroom, I agree with you. And I think that's where I'm going to go. I just worry about the pH getting low sometimes at night.
But what's in the tank? Mushrooms don't care. Anemones don't care. If you're not doing encrusting stuff, if it's mainly like softies and stuff, I don't think they overly care.
Yeah.
I wouldn't worry about too much.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Just food for thought, right? Because if it's in a bedroom, a skimmer can be noisy, right? There's more stuff. And like canisters, they can be pretty quiet. But again, it's more effort to maintain it. Where if you just did like a 1 bucket water change every week or two, bet you any money the tank would be happy as could be.
Well, that's one of the reasons I was hesitant because the tank has been really good to me. So what I do is every 3 months, I basically do like a 80% water change. There's even a couple of clams there and they're doing fine. So nice. I just, and the water change is mostly for detritus because detritus builds up in corn. But I just do enough water change where even the fish are flopping about and just refill it. And everyone's happy.
Except for the floppy part. Yeah, no, for sure. But honestly, like, in my opinion, all the nanos I've had, the easiest ones have this been one you just do, a one bucket water change, every 2 weeks or so, and they've just been easy peasy. Like I find the nano skimmers, most of them don't work that well. Like they're okay, but they don't do a big change, and then they're usually noisy. And I'm like, is it really worth the noise? Probably not. That's my thought.
The Tunzi one is really cool, but you're right, it is noisy because even my wife goes in there and say, "What is that thing making?" So I turn it off at night. But isn't just a big from when we first started in the hobby? Isn't what you just said? Isn't that a big contrast to remember when it was like go big or go home or bigger is more stable, and we slowly realized over time like a lot of the people who joined the hobby in the last 3 to 4 years, they came in with nanos. And
Mm,
I think it's so like if something goes wrong in a nano, you can make two buckets, two 5 gallon
easy.
buckets, and you're basically like if you're affected by heavy metals or high nitrates or
Hmm.
whatever, two buckets of salt or a bucket of salt and two water changes, and you're back to square one.
Yeah.
You have nothing to worry about. So I'm just amazed how our thinking and the advice you get are so different in the last
Yeah.
couple of years.
It was always, like go bigger, it's easier and blah blah blah. But at the same time, like I think back to my 20 gallon or 25 gallon, whatever that Red Sea Nano was that I used to have. And it was like the tank thrived and it was so easy. And I could do a water change on that thing in like 4 minutes. I had just got a big tube, suck it out, start a 5 gallon bucket, dump it out, dump a new 5 gallon bucket in. And it was so quick and easy that I actually did it frequently. And on a big tank, if I'm doing like a 35 or a 50 gallon, drum or trash can full of water, it's a lot more work to bring all the stuff in, fill it with the RDI. And I don't do it as often, right? It probably only gets one every like 6 months or so. I did a 35 gallon, 30-ish probably gallon realistically on this one. But again, that's not that big of a water change on this big tank beside me. So I don't know. Part of me sometimes it's a trade off because I love the big tanks. I love all the space for everything, but I also miss the nano at times. So
I have my water change down to a science in a closet. I have a 33 gallon boot.
mhm.
And so I turn off the pumps off the tank, put the ultra zero in the sump. And, I'm close to a
Mhm.
window. So just stick the hose outside and just pump because it's a back alley. And
That helps.
emptying the sump after everything is drained and emptying the sump is basically equal to the 33 gallons I'm putting in. So that makes it really easy. So within like 20 minutes, I've pumped all the water out, and
Hmm.
I have a long hose, and I've made like a little hook mechanism on the side. I watched your video the other day. I basically recreated with PVC that hook from the water change apparatus. I forgot which company makes it. So
Oh,
within a
the
half an
Python.
hour, Python. So
That
within
thing's
a half an
magical.
hour, yeah, I know. So within a half an hour, um,
You're set.
water empty, water filled, I'm done. And then it's long enough. I've made it long enough where it goes to the bedroom and hooks on to the nano tank, so I can refill the nano from the same hose. And it's at the end of the day, I've made it so when I'm rolling it up, it goes into the back, it drains back into the tank. I have one of those quick disconnect that actually seals the outlet when you're disconnected it.
Hmm.
So I think I've got it down to a science that works.
I really appreciate that thing. The Python with the really long hose, and then if you're like refilling from a bin using the hooky Python on like an Ultra Zero or something similar, because you just hook it on your tank. It doesn't have to fall off. Back in the day, I used to use like those little clamps and all that stuff, and sometimes they fall and you spill and you make a mess. So that hook just stays there with a little like valve on it. So much better. It's
Yep.
like
I've
these stupid little things you eventually get, and they just make your life easier.
I think when you have a toddler running around, you might have to get the hook for double protection.
Yeah.
But I basically made because I'm clumsy and I've tripped over my tubing. So I
Mm.
basically, it's like a PVC that goes about 4 inches down into the tank.
Yeah.
So um, Gloria Diaz say putting the hose out the window. Yeah,
I
it
never
is.
heard that.
It is it's New York City. This is a back alley. So and I was talking to my neighbor downstairs.
They're
She
walking
actually has
by. They're very salty today.
she has a turtle tank. And I remember we were talking once, and I said, "Oh yeah, just put my one in the back." She never thought about it. She
Yeah.
lives on the first floor, so I think she does it now. When she's doing water change in a purple turtle tank. I hook something to it, so at least it's not going down. Maybe if my neighbor downstairs has an
Yeah.
AC, so I basically shoot it like 4 feet. I'm on the third floor, so
Just a pump, just a
yeah,
big arc out your window to the neighbor
yeah,
building.
yeah,
Oh, that's
yeah.
awesome.
Hey, I at one point when I used to use the Apex for automatic water change, that way I would just stick the hose outside. I once when I went back there for something, you could see the salt streak coming down the side.
All the way from your window, it's like, who'd that come from? It's like perfect little line of salt.
Yep. Now,
uh,
on the flip side, when I suck my skimmer airline outside,
mhm.
I take a python, basically the python, and you that's on the end of my thing outside. So because when I just stick the cord outside, when it's raining or hailing or
Mhm.
snowing, it actually sucks moisture up inside the tubing. So I have the end of a python, the big part that you use the gravel vac of a python, that's
Yep.
outside.
Huh.
So it's not going to suck moisture up to that extra foot or whatever that python is.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, that's a fair point. Quick shout out, dedicated reefer. Thank you for the super chat. Much appreciated.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, no, it's interesting. I mean, right out the window makes your life so much easier. If you, I don't know, I see lots of people will throw salt water on the driveway too to like kill any weeds and different things. I'm like, it's actually not a bad idea. 'Cause I see
Where do
like
you put the
sprouts and
water?
stuff. Huh?
You
Down the
put it down the
toilet.
drain?
Yeah,
Oh
it's down
yeah.
the toilet.
Okay. Yeah, I haven't had any slips. I haven't had any slips. There's very few times. So with this tank, I've gone crazy with the flow, and I really don't have, other than twice or three times a year maybe. I have to vacuum out detritus because I have
Mm.
two vortex on the back bottom, so nothing settles on the back at all. Very
Yep.
little settles. But yeah, not carrying buckets around is like, how great is your life?
It's wonderful. I need to set my automatic water change back up. You're pretty much selling me on it right now. It's like the stupidest thing because I believe I like ran out of salt or something and I just turned it off and I just haven't turned it back on yet. It's ridiculous.
Yeah,
Ridiculous.
I like. Yeah, when I had it with the Apex, the only thing was the dose was really loud. But it
Mhm.
would be really interesting to do it with a Versa because the Versa can do 50 gallons a day and they're not as loud when they're going at full speed. And you can do the Versa, like the dose can only do what it did for a certain period of time before it needed to stop and cool down. You can run the Versa at full, like granted, you're going to wear out the wire a little, the tubing,
Yeah.
but you can run the Versa at full speed all day if needed. Like it's continuous duty at full
Yeah.
speed. And what is it, 250 mils a minute or
It's a good
something?
chunk.
Something really, I think I calculated that almost 50 gallons a day you could move with Versas.
Yeah. I did mine about half speed and it was pretty darn quiet. Like at full speed, you hear it. It's not terrible, but you hear the
Yeah, but I compared it to the dose, and I think
yeah,
it's
because the dose it like it vibrates. I think because the housing's plastic, you get that like reverb. So it's just like it's louder for sure.
very loud.
Yeah.
I also thought of running tubing to like mix the water between both tanks, and I thought it wasn't worth it.
Say that again.
To prevent dosing, not having to dose a second tank, I
Hmm.
thought about running tubing to have the two lines mix, like exchange 5 gallons between the tanks every day, and I didn't think the juice was worth the squeeze.
Yeah, that's fair. I think, yeah, it's a trickier one. If you did, like a 50% daily water change, like it'd probably work, but you'd have to make sure they're perfectly calibrated at all times and calibrate them often. That's the only tricky bit.
Yeah, it's not worth it. I think a couple times a month, a couple
Yeah.
times a year, let's say 4 or 5 times a year, doing a 100% water change, and I'm using instant ocean salt. I think the tank is fine. Everything loves it. Um, I don't think I should complicate it.
That's fair. The thing that I always would worry about doing that is, over time, if you don't calibrate the pumps every month or two, like, will they slowly drift and will you eventually be like either adding more or sucking more and then it's going to mess with your salinity? Like, I feel like you'd almost want to calibrate them every like month or two if you were going to do that. Otherwise, you'd have that slight variation and eventually it would slowly add up.
100% agree with you because one of the reasons I think I like the Versa as a pump, I don't
Hmm.
think it works for like feeding a calcium reactor. It always gets gummed up, and I have to replace the tubing too often. That I think,
Hmm.
but I've had a Versa since day one, which is what, 3 years, and
Yeah.
that thing has been dosing Kalkwasser since day one, and that thing is still. Every time I go to calibrate it, it's almost perfect. So I think the liquid has a wear and tear on the tubing also.
It depends what you run. My Kalkwasser that I run RDI through, that one seems to last ages. Like I think I've replaced it once.
Yeah, I've been running it. I've had a Versa since day one, and I've
Yeah.
been dosing fresh water through it. And
Yeah.
I tried
Still
to recalibrate
fine.
it the other day, and it was spot on. And I don't think I'm going to have to change that thing for quite a while.
Have you replaced the tubing on it at all?
No, never.
So okay, so this is like what I've learned. My freshwater one, aka RDI water, lasts ages. Never have an issue with it. Most of my dosing normal non-caustic stuff, not a problem. My calcium reactor though, that pumps salt water through it 24/7. I find every three to 4 months it will start to get hard and brittle, and then I'll lose flow through it and I have to swap the tubing. But so for whatever reason, the salt water is harder on the softer silicone whatever tubing they have in there. But most of the other stuff I dose has been fine. The only other weird one I had was dosing some very potent hydroxides that's eventually started to eat through it, eat through the plastic on the connector. The tubing was fine actually, but the plastic connector, it eventually became brittle from dosing crazy high pH.
It's probably the O-ring. So Fragmented Mind on Instagram actually gave Greg and I. So I do the sodium hydroxide.
Yeah.
I use it to kill calc. So he gave us some specialized containers to store it in, because I tried to store it in plastic containers and put it, and it ate through it.
Have you tried acrylic?
I have not tried acrylic. I
Okay.
did, yeah. So, but he gave me some plastic containers, and he said these can last ages with it. So that's what I do.
Okay.
So I know exactly. I can imagine. I imagine if you're doing Kalkwasser, it's the same thing, except it'll just take longer. But
So speaking of eating through stuff, on the Aquamax dosing containers, I had the smaller one used for reagent for the cage keeper. And I went to refill it the other day, and also I looked back and I was like, water over my desk, and what the heck? The connector broke, and I don't know if the reagent ate through it or it was just an old connector, because I've had those for like 4 or 5 years. But I was like, I mean, very well could have been, whatever acid or pH or whatever solution was in there eventually ate through it. So
I was gonna say, could it be like it was acidic? Because I know, like vinegar, you can't use vinegar with certain acrylic. Like I know even when you had the dose, like I know Terrence always used to warn about, hey, don't use vinegar or anything that you're in a carbon dose in here, because it'll create. I think I poured vinegar in my thing already and just totally got those micro abrasions on the. Yeah, I think that's what happened.
that's true. So what you dose makes a big difference. That's what I've learned. Ironically, saltwater, the one running saltwater through it at like 50 mil a minute seems to be the hardest on it, and everything else seems fine. So
Yeah, I think
food for thought.
I think I learned my lesson with that, and I think afterwards, I think I had a conversation with, I think it was Jay at one of the Reefapaloozas, and he's like, "Yeah, man, like it's a wearable part, like replace it."
It's true.
So I think the Verse is fine for everything else. The actually thing that I'm doing now is I went on Amazon, and I think I got this idea from Greg. We bought some of those little USB, like little micro pumps, like what comes with one of those ATO kits. So that's how I feed my calcium reactor, and it just works, and I have no issues. I actually just purchased the new Tunzi
Yeah.
pump to try, so that hasn't.
Oh,
come
that's
yet.
in my shopping cart. That's on my future order list.
Yeah, it comes with the wires at the end, so I think I have to do some DIY to connect. I spoke to Roger, and he told me what power supply, because it's made to connect to the osmolator, so it doesn't come with a power supply like what we think.
Yeah,
it
it's
is.
just like 12 volts. So you can just wire up to anything. Easy peasy.
Yeah.
Easy peasy.
Yeah, well, you say that, but I'm not that guy.
You can twist the wires together with electrical tape on if you want to be like super easy. Super easy.
You
I'll
say-
help you.
You say that like it's
No big deal. Easy.
all right if you say so.
I will help you when you get it. Okay, Wealthy Adams. Random question. Which magnesium test kit do you like? What's the best one? Or what do you use? Making a BRS order tonight, wanting to get one. I use Hannah for elk and calcium, but need to start testing mag again. I have always just used the Red Sea magnesium ones just because it's cheap. I find it really easy to read and it works well. What do you use? Oh,
Red Sea.
Red Sea? Yeah.
Yes, I think like most of us, I bought the Hana,
Yeah.
and I don't think I've used it as much as I should. But the Red Sea one just seems to really work well
Yeah.
for what I need. So I use the Red Sea.
Yeah. Red Sea is my go-to for magnesium. With Hana, I like the elk. I like the phosphate. And if you're going to test copper, I like it for copper.
What about the nitrate?
I haven't used the nitrate. The calcium, I find the refills like crazy pricey, so I just never use it. Yeah.
Too much effort for the calcium.
Yeah.
For calcium, I actually use Nios. Is it Nios? Because I can't see. There's certain colors I cannot see, and the Elos nitrate. Okay, so for ALK, it's either the Alcatronic or the Trident. I'm running both, so I almost never test ALK with my Hana checker. But if I had to do a manual test kit, it would be Hana checker. Magnesium is the Red Sea. Calcium is the Elos because it has a low range and a high range. So you can just test in increments of 50. So you can know, hey, I'm between 400 and 450, I'm fine.
Yeah.
But when I get to 400, if I want to do resolutions of 10, I can. So the flexibility of just like, I'm within range, keep it moving, is fine. For nitrate, I like the Hana checkers because I get a digital readout and I don't have to worry about the color change.
Yeah.
That's really why I like the Hana checker because I think I'm a little bit colorblind. So
that's fair.
The colors.
The Red Sea nitrate was a pain in the butt because you got to like run through these little filters and wait like a certain amount of time, and that was a pain. I can never match it properly. Jordan, that's an interesting one. Simplest way to lower pH. So it depends what you're doing to raise your pH. I mean, if you're running a refugium, reduce the hours on it. If you're using soda lime, I mean, tone that back. Using kelp, tone that back. Like, it depends what you're doing to increase pH. And whatever you're using, I would just, either tone that back or use a product that has less of a pH impact.
I once, when I accidentally crashed my tank with Saltwater, I think I asked Greg about this, and then I eventually had asked Craig Bingman about it. So in an emergency, use vinegar. That's going to create a lot of issues later that you need to solve, like all the carbon source.
Yes.
But if you need to lower your pH immediately, like vinegar.
I have used similar things to lower ALK as well. I actually use a stronger acid, but it's basically the same as vinegar. So, but the thing is, yes, that will lower it, but you're also going to be carbon dosing.
Yes.
So, and you do too much carbon dosing, that can lead to cyano and other stuff in your tank. And that's kind of like the caveat to consider.
When I was having that conversation when my tank was in trouble, they were like, your fish and your animals are at risk. Like, let's deal with the most immediate issue, which was the high pH. So that's why, I didn't really save as much as I wanted to, but I think that was sound advice.
Yeah.
Let me give another rant here.
Rant away. Okay, quick thing before you rant. Bill Reefer, thank you for the super chat. Thank you. Thank you. He said he used medical grade duping on the Versa. So I'm curious which one he used and if you're using the calcium reactor, because that's the only one I find that takes a lot more abuse. The others all seem fine to me. So you're most welcome, Wesley Adams. Okay, sorry, rant away, good sir.
This is not a rant. Let me tone it back. I'm really a little upset that the Versa tubing is not available more widespread.
I agree.
Yeah, like if it's a wearable part, like why isn't it available on now saltwateraquarium.com has it. But the last time I bought it, I was really annoyed that I had to go to Ecotech. I just did a Google search and now I realized that Saltwater Aquarium has it, which good on them.
Yeah.
But I remember being really annoyed that I had to go to buy it from Ecotech and then I had to pay shipping because their shipping, you have to pay shipping. So
yeah. No, I agree. If you're ordering stuff anyways, it's nice to just add in those consumables, right? It makes more sense. And you're not paying for extra shipping.
Yeah, so right now, Versa, I think Saltwater Aquarium is the only major retailer that is carrying it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, why?
Yeah, I don't know.
I will
That's
send
really
BRC
annoying.
message. Where is it?
Really
No,
annoying.
I do agree though. It is nice to have all those consumables easier to get. I was happy to see though they do sell like the Alcatronic replacement tubings and stuff now. They didn't used to, so that actually made me happy because I finally replaced a few things on my just to freshen up a bit.
Ah,
I know,
how do you wait? How many elk testers do you have?
too many.
Wait, you have the Alcatronic.
Yes,
You have the Trident. We're going to count that. You
yes.
have the.
Keep going.
Is there one you cannot name?
They're all. I've had them all for a while. Nothing new.
You have the. What else do you have? What am I missing?
On the
You
water
have
box, I have a Trident, an Alcatronic, and a Mastertronic.
Oh,
And on the one beside me, I have an Alcatronic, a KH Keeper Plus,
KH.
a Reef Bot, and a Mastertronic. Slightly overkill.
The KH Keeper Plus is the light little cute one that's in the. Oh.
Yeah, so I need to. Some of them needs some love and recalibrating and stuff, and redo the pH probes because I'm way overdue on some of these. But on my to-do list, that's the only thing. If you're going to use auto testers, you need to do the maintenance once in a while, and I haven't done it far too long. But every once in a while, you got to replace a tube or a needle or recalibrate a pH probe, like stuff. Which is funny how you can be a slacker on it and lazy on it, but it's like every few months, a little bit of maintenance goes a long way to keep them happy.
The KH Keeper Plus, I really like how compact it is. Mm-hmm. I'm just annoyed that you can't pump the data anywhere else. Like it's just its own thing.
Agreed. Yeah. I really appreciate the size and it's quiet, but yeah, it'd be nice to have either a pH port or some kind of like an API thing where you could link it up with some other software or something.
Yeah, like because chances are I'm never going to buy their ecosystem things. I apologize, but I don't know.
Yeah. Like the Alcatronic you can pipe it out through a BNC port, which is cool. So you can pipe into like a pH port on something. With the Hydros, I mean, the cool thing with that is you could just give it the credentials for it and it pulls it in, which is sweet. I wish more people do that. But yeah, so it'd be nice if they had a way to get it into other controllers.
Yep, I think every other than the Apex, of course, but I think every other ALK checker had a BNC port for you to import it into. Because the one before, KH Guardian or something, that also had a pH port. So just a little annoyed.
Yeah. Phil, KH Carer, I'm pretty sure that's the Kimura one. Is nice, happy with it running a week. Uses the same reagent as Alcatronic, but you mix it 8-to-1, VS4-to-1. Oh, very nice. So same reagent, different mixing ratio, but yeah, basically sounds pretty good. Yeah, it's always interesting. There's so many testers to pick from now, right? So it's pick your poison. I personally always kind of consider, what's the long-term cheaper to run one, just because I don't know, I'm cheap on that thing. I like whatever is like more affordable long-term.
The reagents for like the Alcatronic and I think the Kimura KH Kira, I think is because I think I texted Reefkeeper who's in the chat and I think I asked him like, hey, how long does it last? And I think it's double. I think it's even diluted versus what the I might be calculating it wrong, but I think it should last longer than what the current Alcatronic lasts. So I don't know if that's the direction I'm going to go, but it's just interesting.
You're good. You have lots of testers. And the Kimura doesn't go, wee.
Oh, the Alcatronic is so loud. So loud. So loud.
When it's tested. Do you know what's funny? I mean, they all make noise, but I was laughing because, like, I have certain testers, they test at certain times. Like, I know the Trident, like, the little RTU, like, that's at, like, 6 in the morning and 6 p.m. And, like, the Alcatronic, it, based off when I reboot it's the times, but I'll, like, hear these noises, and I'm like, oh, it's this time. As I know what time it is based off the testers and the random noises throughout the house. It's kind of funny.
I have to say, though, Devin, the newest versions of my chair is really uncomfortable. The newest versions of the Tridents are much silent than the first versions. The new ones are so quiet. All you hear is the clicking of the pumps going, and you hear like a little whiny noise, but they're so much quiet than the first one I had. They've gotten really better in that department.
No, definitely. Will, fellow reefer, sent me the link. I will pull that up in a second. Thank you, sir. Will, thank you for the super chat. He goes, looking for recommendation on first-time controller and auto tester. I know you've both played with almost everything. Yeah, you're probably correct. So this is a very interesting one. I guess a couple questions. You know, how big's your tank, and do you want to be hardcore with automation? Do you just want to monitor it? Like, how deep do you want to go into the automation rabbit hole?
We'll wait for him to answer, but my favorite controller right now is really the Hydros.
Yeah.
I think because, so you can tell because I was an Apex fan for years, and when the Hydros came out, it was something new. And I think Neptune has to come out with something that blows me away for me to make the switch.
Mm-hmm.
So whatever I have on my primary tank, the Apex has been relegated to my kid's tank. Not that I don't respect it, but the Hydros is my number one. I like that it's ease of use.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing I'm really impressed now is I've had it since day one, and there's a bunch of little devices that I've picked up over the years since I've had it, and they're all still useful. So, for instance, the first ever Hydros device I bought was a Control 2. And if I need to put leak detectors anywhere, I can just plug it in and just use it, whether daisy chain or standalone. So I really like it for that reason.
That's fair.
I really do like it for that reason, that nothing like, so for instance, if I want to plug something in under my sink and just put some leak detectors, or maybe I want to put a TDS meter and monitor my, I really think, I'm whispering this, not like they're not hearing me, but I really think there's going to be a Hydros control RODI unit very soon. Like, it's a no-brainer.
It makes
There
sense.
is optical sensors, there's leak detectors, there's TDS meters, there's flow meters. Like, the logic is already there. I think you just need to put it together. So I'm whispering that, but Coral, if you're listening to me, like,
I've actually thought about using my Hydros just for that purpose. So
I'm going out of town for a few days.
Yeah.
I like it, but I think I still like the Apex. Like, it depends on what you want to do. If you're going to use the Apex, the Trident is a no-brainer.
Yeah. Okay, so Will, 75-gallon tank, looking for a 120 soon. I always say that I want to keep it simple, but I'm going down the rabbit hole. Okay, I work in IT. I love the automation. I find it fun. Like, it's almost a hobby in itself, doing the automation rabbit hole. So take that with, just know that with my answer. So I have used GHL. I actually have a GHL. I have a Trident. I have not a Trident. I do have a Trident. GHL, an Apex, and Hydros. So,
yeah, and you do have, you bought the other one. There's another one.
So, okay, my general overview. I feel like GHL is physically the best built, but their control software is a pain in the butt. It's not very intuitive. Hydros, I feel like their stuff is not as well, like, it's cheaper. It's not as robust. I find them kind of in the middle. Like, a lot of things on them are fairly easy. Some things are a pain. But a lot of things are easy. I was a little bit tainted because my original Hydros was all the Wi-Fi power strips. They would work great for a while, and then they would like drop off, and then there'd be some weird issues with it, which was a bit of a pain. So if I was to do Hydros full time again, I would 100% get one that had like the brains in the power bar. Apex I feel it's kind of in the middle. I like their interface the best, and I like their programming the best. I personally preferred, the prior classic when it was metal over the plasticky stuff that they currently have. I like the older design better. There's more industrial feeling, and I appreciated that. So I kind of feel like they're in the middle. I find I have an easier time doing advanced stuff on Apex versus any of the other systems. So if you want to get crazy and customized stuff, I feel like it's a lot easier to do on Apex. And I also find, at least now, I don't really use them because I've used it for years and years and I know my way around it really well. But I do feel like what they call it, the tasks, I think it's called, where they automate stuff for you. They did a really good job of that and making it easy if you're not overly technical and you want to just like walk you through it. So that's kind of my general overview. Yeah, so like, okay, so Phil in the chat, use both systems. I use both Neptune and Hydros. I prefer Hydros now. Love being able to control the Wi-Fi strips. Okay, so I agree in that I love the Wi-Fi strips because it is nice to be able to control something across the house and it just works. when it works. You can control it, make it really easy. I appreciate that. But at the flip side, I've also had things where just like the Wi-Fi power bar just stops responding. So it has lots
Yeah.
of nice conveniences, but I don't find it to be 100% reliable. Now, this could be something to do with my setup. I don't just have a single home router. I have 4 access points. Like I have Ubiquiti stuff. I have more of like a small business grade stuff and out the hill and stuff can roam around. And it's like more of an advanced setup. And maybe that's part of it. I don't know. But that's
I
just my
think
brain dump on them all.
I think I 100% agree with you. I
Yeah.
think I use the Wi-Fi strips. I also use the Wi-Fi strips. I use some of the Wi-Fi. So early on, you're right. There was a lot with it. In fact, I had the same issue when I have a Google Home and I was adding an extender to it. Like
Yeah.
it wouldn't connect. You would have to set it up on the main thing and then move it. If you try to set it up on the extended network, it wouldn't work. There was some weirdness happening. I haven't had many issues, but even now, I'm very careful of what I plug into the Wi-Fi strips. For instance, let's say I have my Alcatronic in it. Like if my Alcatronic stays on, if my Vortex, because most of the time when they can connect, they stay on. So
Yeah.
my Vortex, I have a Wi-Fi plug bar where my Vortex plug in. Like if that stays on, I am fine. If my I just leave things in it that I don't mind if they stay on. So I'm a little conscious, but I do have 2 of the XP8s and I love them. I just daisy chain them together. But your fears are.
Yeah. So,
One thing I do love in this world though is I love the competition because
yes.
when Hydros when Hydros came out with, hey, they just have these sense ports and you can plug any sensor device into them, I think Neptune came out and matched. Now you have FMM ports on the head unit for a lot of their devices. So I love the competition. I hope they keep outdoing each
100%.
other because we
100%.
benefit. Like stuff keeps coming, we benefit. So
Yeah.
heck
No.
yeah.
100% with you on that one. I love innovation and little friendly competitions, good to spark it, keep it coming.
Friendly or unfriendly, like I'm all for it. Remember when remember when we had these arguments about I love Wi-Fi or Wi-Fi, I believe in wired. I'm like,
Yeah.
you guys are nuts. Like
Oh.
I work from home and I do not have a computer plugged into. There's I have
Crazy,
a router with one plug in it, and you know what's plugged into it? My Philips Hue Light router. Everything else at home is Wi-Fi. So if I don't trust what, like that's madness.
As I look over, my 24 port switch is like out of ports.
Like it's madness. So I just think like that was, and then the Neptune lights are Bluetooth, and then other things are Bluetooth. Now there is a Neptune module for Bluetooth. So I think the competition is only going to let us look silly. We're going to get better devices for the competition. And
Yeah.
I'm here for it.
Yeah, I appreciate the flexibility of Wi-Fi, but I also appreciate the reliability of wired because there's less of an issue of interference.
And counterpoint to that, though.
Wait. One more thing. The other thing to note is most of these smart things that have embedded Wi-Fi are 2.4 gigahertz. A lot of people have their router with a blended, so it does both on the same SSID, which is your Wi-Fi name. And if you do that, there is a good chunk of devices that have issues with that. So it is always a good idea to like separate and have 2 different Wi-Fi signals, one for each network, and then you put all your like smart things on the 2.4, and you'll have a better experience. Go ahead. Sorry.
This is not really a counterpoint, but the thing with Hydros, when you have what they call a collective, I think is what it's called, when you daisy chain a bunch of things together.
Yeah.
I don't choose. You can choose one as the master.
Mm-hmm.
I sometimes see my devices cycle through. Like I have a what's called an X3, and I run a cable to it and have so everything that my calcium reactor needs, including the leak detector, is right by the calcium reactor. So you can tell which device is the master and which ones are the slave. I actually see. I don't know why, but I see them cycle through. Like maybe this one is getting a better signal, so it becomes the master. But I just appreciate it. Makes me. I don't know if there's an actual technical redundancy to that, but it makes me feel like, hey, it does. The software does say if one head unit all of a sudden stops getting Wi-Fi, the other one picks up the slack.
That's a
and
cool
becomes
feature.
the Wi-Fi. So
I appreciate that. No, definitely appreciate that one. Yeah, so very long-winded answer and food for thought on different systems. The other half of that one was about controllers. If you have an Apex, the Trident is a very nice user experience because it's all in there. It's pretty graphs. It's easy to set up. I do like it. So it is a very nice experience. Alcatronic is more money, but it's very cheap in reagent to run long term. There's the Kimura one. I haven't used that one yet. Reef Factory, again, that one, it's very quiet. It's tiny. I appreciate its footprint, but you can't really pipe that data into a controller. That's the one thing I feel is lacking. This is for alkalinity. If there's other stuff you want to test, then I mean the Trident test calcium mag. Otherwise, you got to look at something like either the Reef bot or the Mastertronic, and then they can automate your manual test kits. And again, the Reef bot does not pipe into Apex, but it can wirelessly pipe that data into Hydros, which is a nice feature. I appreciate that one. The Reef bot, I don't think that one pipes in anything. Again, this is its own app for it, but those are kind of the options on that front, depending on which you want to test. Elk is by far the most important. The others are nice to have.
I agree. I don't think I have a counter. I think I agree. I just want to bring up something. I forgot what it's called, but isn't there an API Aquaspin that I don't think it matches what's the guy that asked the question wants to do, but I just want to mention it for completeness because Greg has one, and I think it's cool. And when I immediately saw that device, I thought it was great for an LFS. Like, you bring it in, and if it's calibrated correctly and everything, you can use it. So I think at the aquarium shop in my local fish store, they have it, and you bring in your water, and there's an automated tester for your water, which I think is cool. I really think there should be like a ReefBot commercial version where, you come in, you stick something, and it just tests. You come back in a half an hour, and it just tests all your elements, or maybe that's what an ICP test. I don't know, but I like the Aquaspin. If you're a maintenance professional and you're going around testing all these tanks to get certain parameters from every tank, I think it's a useful tool.
Yep. There is also, it died, but there was something like that, similar, like not the Aquaspin, but it was something that spun around in a tank, and you buy discs, but I think they ran out of funding or something happened and that one died off. But it was a similar idea that was in tank. You need to replace the cartridge every month.
Yeah, the Aquaspin, I think the Aquaspin kind of, not the same parameters, but sort of replaced that. But I think, I've seen the Aquaspin in person, and I like the way it works. It's just, I don't think it's what the person who was asking the question needs, but I know Greg Carroll has one, and I've seen one used at my LFS, so I think it's...
Mine. I think my LFS has one too. Someone in the chat, 4-liter jug of Alcatronic lasts close to a year. I think I got Mindstream. Thank you, Phil. That's what it's called. I think I got about a year and a half out of a jug of my Alcatronic rage. Like, it lasts a long time. It's cheap, which I like it. Trident's more expensive on the monthly, but it's a nice experience. Like, it's all a trade-off, right?
Yeah, I think, And if you're of account, I know I have a Trident because I'm doing some stuff with it. But for the most part, if you're using, for instance, a calcium reactor, I find that your stuff is really, really stable.
Yeah.
That you don't need the calcium and magnesium test as often. So
exactly. Like, alkalinity is the main one, obviously, and the other ones they're nice to have, but you don't necessarily need them on an auto tester. Like, you can just manually test them every, once a month or every few weeks with the calcium reactor or a calc or something that's or like all free, something that's dosing all in one. But if you're all dosing it separately, then you may or may not want to check them more often. Again, like a new tank, you probably want to be testing it, weekly, and then once your tank settles in and stuff's pretty consistent, you can probably test it monthly and be fine. Elk's the one that changes the most. That's when you care about the most. Yeah, I do have to cut us off pretty quick because I have to go run out in a couple minutes. But
all right,
go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go. Well, you can leave me. I'll take care of the stream for you.
You totally could.
All right. I was going to say with my Alcatronic, because, something happened recently, so I'm testing 4 times a day now. But before, I tested before the lights came on to know what, it was, and I tested when the lights came off. So 2 times a day, I think, is more than enough to know what's trending. Like, before your light, so you know where your consumption during light hours are. So I thought that was good enough for me to know.
No, I agree. Mine tests every 12 hours, too, so same schedule. All right, hopefully that helped and answered your questions. I do apologize, so I do got to cut it short today. I do. I'm supposed to go meet someone to pick up something for a buddy right away. Fellow reefer, Will, dedicated reefer, Niagara. Oh, that was last time. Thank you guys for the super chat. I appreciate it. Thank you for joining me, buddy. Reefing with
no
O
problem.
on
I'm sorry for
Instagram and
helping.
YouTube, who's eventually going to post more content, I hear rumors of.
Okay, I agree.
Hopefully you guys enjoyed our random Q&A session, and hopefully it's helpful. If you did, be sure to hit that like button. If you're new, subscribe. Tune in next week, and we'll get down some more rabbit holes. Thanks,
I know.
guys. Have